Hello, Fifth Watcher. I'm the Mass Analyst. Are you calling me a moron? Are you calling me a moron? Are you calling me a moron? It sure looks that way because you're saying that anyone who disagrees with you after hearing you out on your views of copyright law is a moron. If they disagree with you, if they think that you haven't justified yourself, then they're a moron. Well, I guess I'm a moron then. I have to admit, this moron isn't a lawyer, but you sure as hell ain't either. Now, you seem to have a very fundamental misunderstanding. You seem to confuse the YouTube's terms of service and what is allowed under the law. You seem to confuse what YouTube seems to say and what the law allows. And you seem to show total ignorance of fair use and the importance of fair use. Let me give you some examples as to why fair use is absolutely essential. Suppose I were to make a video. Suppose I were to write down what you said word for word in your video, and I memorized it. And I used a couple minutes of your video, not your video clip. I didn't download your clip, but I wrote down what you said, and I memorized it word for word. And I got your mannerisms down just perfectly, even down to the zombie, you need express written permission. Now, suppose I were to do that, and if I were to put that up as my own video without crediting you, well, that would make me a plagiarist. That would also make me a scumbag. Now, suppose you're pissed at that, and you want to show what a scumbag I am. Well, what better way for you to do this than for you to make your own video in which you took clips from your video, compared it side by side with clips from my video, showing where I imitated you, where I stole your words. Although I didn't steal your video, and you would show that I'm a plagiarist. Now, of course, if I don't like being proven to be a plagiarist, I might remove my video so people couldn't see my evidence, see the evidence that I'm a plagiarist. But your video would still be up, proving me a plagiarist. Are you going to say that what you're doing is wrong, that what you're doing is illegal? Now, what if I were to send a DMCA against you because I claim that you're using my video clip, violated my copyright, even though in my clip all I was doing was stealing your words? Well, according to your view of the law, according to Fifth Watcher, well, I have every right to file that DMCA, and you're in the wrong because you stole my video clips even though I was stealing your words. Let me give you another example. I'm going to make up a couple of wacky examples. They never happen in real life, but they get my point across. Suppose John McCain suffered temporary Alzheimer's, if there is such a thing. Suppose he had a brain fart, whatever. And he had his campaign put out a video on YouTube that says the first thing he's going to do when he gets in office is bomb Iran. Then he gets a whole bunch of negative comments on it, and he goes, oh crap, I really put my foot in my mouth this time, and he pulls the video. Well, according to your version of the law, the Barack Obama campaign would have absolutely no right to use footage from that video in an advertisement of theirs showing what a reckless guy John McCain is. In fact, according to copyright law, according to your worldview, not even the news would be able to, the news channels, the news stations would be able to use that video because we have no right to use the footage of other people's videos. On the other hand, suppose one day Obama got bit by the crazy bug and said, Allah Akbar, God is great, death to America. And he put that out on a video, and then he realized, oops, made a mistake. Well, again, according to your worldview, the McCain campaign would have absolutely no right to use that within their campaign. According to your point of view, the Obama campaign would have the right to make that video footage disappear down an Orwellian memory hole, to be gone from the collective memory forever. Such are the makings of a dictatorship. Such are the ends of democracy. Now, I admit, those are rather extreme, examples, but they illustrate the point. I'm going to post a few links in the sidebar, and I hope you'll get a chance to take a look at them. The first will be to the Code of Best Practices in Fair Use for Online Video, and it was put out by the Center for Social Media at the School of Communications at American University. Now, if you look at the people who wrote this Code of Best Practices, you'll see that they are educators and intellectual property lawyers. I mean, these are people who deal with fair use every day of their, or practically every day of their working lives. Now, who should I trust? Some kid who studied fair use maybe for a few weeks, maybe for a month at film school, or somebody who deals with fair use issues their whole life professionally. Someone who's had a few weeks of training versus a professional who does this all their life. Whose judgment should I trust on this? Well, even if I don't trust a judgment, the law clearly states that fair use is not infringing. I will post a link to the fair use provision of the copyright law in the sidebar as well. Now, you started talking a bit about parody. I'm going to post a link to a couple of cases about fair use as well as in the sidebar. The first will be to Campbell versus Acuff-Rose. That was a Supreme Court case which says that people have the right for fair use of parody. And another will be to a case, it was at the appellate court level. Of course, it doesn't have quite the authority of the Supreme Court level, but it's one of the best written pieces on fair use that I've ever read. So I really highly recommend you read both opinions. It'll take a while to slog through it, I admit, but it's really perhaps one of the best sources for getting a good understanding of fair use. Now, I don't want to say that you got everything wrong in your video. You don't have to register for your video to be protected by copyright law. You stated that clearly and you got that right. Congratulations. However, you seem to have a basic misunderstanding. You seem to confuse YouTube's terms of service with copyright law. You seem to say that it would be illegal for you to make fair use of other people's videos. Well, YouTube has demonstrated a contempt for fair use. YouTube's terms of service go well beyond what the copyright law demands. One can make fair use of other people's videos, and if somebody else complains about it, then YouTube will remove the video if they file a DMCA complaint. YouTube's terms of service, as I mentioned, go beyond what the copyright law demands, and I've made lots and lots of videos about this. I've got a website about this. I'll post a link to the website. I'm not going to go into this in too much detail. Now, if you had simply said that if you use someone else's video without their permission, that they can expect to get DMCA'd if the person doesn't like it, I would have no objections to what you said. If you had simply said, it's good advice, it's a good general rule to get other people's permission in order to make sure you don't get a DMCA complaint, I would have had no beef with you. You would have been dead on. However, even the DMCA, flawed as it may be, recognizes fair use in a sort of ass-backwards way. You see, the person who gets a video taken down because of a DMCA can file a DMCA counter notice, and they'll get that video restored between 10 and 14 business days. This is something that YouTube must do. They must restore the video in order to get protection against copyright lawsuits, unless the person who created the video informs YouTube that they've filed a lawsuit over this. If a lawsuit is actually filed, then the video will stay down and the video won't get up and you'll be sued. Now, if you had simply said it would be a good idea to get the permission of the person that you're quoting, no problem. If you'd simply said you'll avoid potential legal problems, no problems. But you went beyond that. You said that it's the law that you can't use other people's video clips. No way, no how. The DMCA is blatantly unconstitutional in my opinion because it requires us to surrender anonymity in order to defend our right to fair use. If someone DMCA's your video and you want to get it restored by filing a counter DMCA, you got to drop your own docs and you got to tell the person who's filed that complaint who you are and where you live. Now, this seems to violate the spirit of many court decisions, some of them at the Supreme Court level, especially if your video involved politics, especially if it was political speech. I'm going to post a link in the sidebar to my analysis on my website of this. Now, as I said, the DMCA is flawed, and YouTube's implementation of the DMCA goes well beyond what the DMCA demands. YouTube will suspend accounts after 3 infractions, even if those accounts, even if the person who posted the videos in question was making fair use of another person's video. The DMCA doesn't require this. The DMCA only demands that YouTube have a policy for suspending repeat infringers, but it doesn't spell out what that policy should look like. YouTube has gone well beyond what the DMCA demands and said, fuck you, to fair use. Now, don't confuse YouTube's policy with what the law requires. Don't make statements that the law forbids people 100% under all conditions that they can't use the clips of another's without their permission. This has been the Mass Analyst, under and in.